Okay, welcome to the Visual Studio lesson for creating first program in C Sharp in the .NET framework. What you need to do is to, after installation of Visual Studio, start up the Visual Studio Express 2013 or 2012, whichever version you may have installed on your machines. What I'm going to do is to start and create the first project. Inside that project, I will write my programs, my C# programs or C# programs. Now one project can have many programs inside it. So what I'm going to do is I click File, New Project. Let me do that again. If you miss that, File, New Project. Make sure you're clicking on Visual C# and then select to choose the console application. So we begin with writing console application, and later on we'll move with other options and we'll explore what other kind of programs we can write. So give it a name, call it something like Hello World or My First Program. So make sure the location is where you remember. Make sure you don't lose these programs whichever you're writing, so that later on when you're preparing for your assessments and practical tests, you may have to go through these assessments again for your revision purposes. So I would suggest do not store your programs on desktop because it has lots of spaces, and in programming when the path has spaces, lots of anomalies occur. So what you should do, as I can show an example, is to use a shorter path, like use C drive and D drive. Within that drive, create a folder called dev for development and write your programs inside this. So let your project, your Visual Studio project, be saved inside the dev folder in C drive or D drive, whichever is convenient for you to remember. So I'll use this d dev and class sample. So on the contrary, if I use desktop, let me show you an example how big the name becomes. And in Windows, this name is actually having a limitation. Let me just select, for the sake of example, this folder course samples on my desktop. I click on desktop and I select some folder with some space. Now you can see it's a big path. Sometimes what happens is, if this complete path starting from the beginning till the end of the file name is longer than 255 characters, then the Windows is unable to read that file. So for this purpose, I have suggested to all of my students to use C or D as the root drive, dev as the subfolder for all development programs, and then select one subfolder within it. And let's select OK. Let's click OK to create my project, and the project will create one default class automatically, and it will have the main method inside it, and write all the standard code it should have automatically. This standard code is something that we will study later on, but right now you should remember that the execution of my program will start from this place. So let me write this in the code comments. So when you use these double slash, these are code comments that the programmers are writing for themselves to remember what the logic is, so they can refer to the program later on and read and understand what the logic was to write the statement above which you're writing this comment. you do not understand this, the concept that if a program does not have main method, then it will not be executed directly. What happens is every program who has to run from a console or within a console should have a main method. If it does not have a main method, then also it is a perfectly valid program, except that some other program having main method should be executing the program which does not have a main method. So we'll discuss and study this concept later on, but right now you should just remember, as your beginners and novice users, your first program or all of your programs which are having main method, its point of execution starts from here. Just first line of your program inside the main method. Now let's write my first statement, which is to print something on the screen. Console.writeLine, and since this is a statement, it should end with a semicolon. Console.writeLine, and let me do that again, and I'll do some explanation of what this auto code means. When I write UNSOLE, the Visual Studio gives me some suggestions, and it tries to understand what I'm trying to write. So if I press enter at this point, it would automatically write the console with the correct spelling, which is C capital, and then dot write line, select write line, and this is the way you would terminate this statement. And now you should write the message, whatever you want to write. Hello world, hooray, this is my first program. Or you can write a message, congratulations for writing your first program in C#. Make sure you always save your programs and then you run it. Notice what happens when I just run it. See, you can also run the program from here, but what will happen is it will run and the console will automatically vanish. It will automatically exit. So now it is building, it is compiling, translating to the in the binary language, and then it just exited automatically because it displayed this message on the console on the command prompt, and then automatically it exited. Now there are two ways if we want to see the program's output and we want that console to stop before exiting, just before exiting. Then one way is to write console.readLine. This way we are telling the program, save it first before running. This way we are telling the program to read something from the user as input before exiting. Now we are not doing anything with that input. We are not storing the user's input. We are not saving it as a variable, whatever the user is writing on the keyboard. But what this serves for us is it makes sure the program does not exit. Okay, so I write some comments for you guys to look at later on. Now when I press the start, you should see hello world, hooray, this is my first program. And you can see the console did not fade away. It did not exit, it did not vanish. So now if I press any key over here and then press enter, you would see that is when it exits. But why does it exit? Because this main method, this main block of code is the point of execution from where it starts. This is after this block, this is the first line, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, tenth, it carries on until this block of code finishes, which is the main method finishes. Notice after console.readLine the main method finishes, there is nothing, so the program also ends. This is one way. Another way is to delete this. You may not need this at all. Save this, go to debug and start without debugging, or control F5 is the shortcut. If you do this, also you can see the program's outputs, and the program will not exit without telling you that you just need to press any key and the program will exit. So if you feel comfortable with this debug and start with the debugging option, you may do so. Control F5 is the shortcut. If you press this on the keyboard, you can also run this program in the start without debugging mode, or you may write this message, whatever is easier for you. So it's up to you. So this is my first program we have written in C#. My other program can be in any other project or in the same project. Okay, for the purpose of ease, I'm creating another project right now. You don't have to, you just need to create another class, another file, another program, but we'll study how we can do this later on. Let's do this. Create another project and make its name variables. Make sure you have selected Visual C# Console application, and okay, there you go. Okay, there's a duplicate project name. Make it another, give it a different name, variables2. Okay, now save this. You will see a very identical and similar program has been created, a new project and a class file. Class is also often called as a program is created with the namespace variables2. Now namespace is my project's name, and this class program is my program name. It can be any other. I can change it to program2, and I can change it to my name without spaces, but this is what a program can be. It can be a class, it can be any name, provided you save it into the same file name. So if I have Murad_Iqbal as the class name, the file name it is saved in also should be the same name. So for the purpose of understanding, I'll just explain this to you. So I'll revert the file name back to program, and I will then start writing my code from here and the static void main. So what I would like to do is to take input from user and do what? Just display the message. Whatever the user has input, just display it in a message. Before displaying it, I should also record this in a variable, remember? So let's divide my course of action into steps first. Take input from user, record input in variable, and then number 3, print out welcome message, and then exit. Okay, so finish. So I've written my comments in form of steps. What I'm going to do now, the first step is, remember, I need to take input from user, console dot write line, and the take input from the user is not write line, sorry, this is read line. Read line something. So the user will write something, and I'd like to store this into a variable called user input. Okay, so now this is input from user, and let me modify this comment and store it in a variable called user input. So from this line, console.readLine, this line will cause the user to write something on the keyboard. As soon as the user writes something on the keyboard and presses enter, the keyboard entry, whatever the value is, it is saved into a variable of type string called user input. So the variable name is user input. The value of this variable will be whatever the user has written on the keyboard. The program will stop execution over here. It will not move forward until and unless the user hits enter after writing something. As soon as that happens, let me tell you again, whatever the user has entered on the keyboard goes uh, is actually stored in the user input, and then the execution resumes. Move forward to the second step. What happens here is actually both of these things are happening together. Recording input in variable. So let me just shift this over here. So both of these things are happening in one line. Taking input from the user and recording input in variable user input. So this is the user input. The input goes here. Okay. Now comes the turn of printing out the welcome message. So the syntax or the statement you use to print out something on the screen on console is this: console.writeLine and write the message here in double quotes. Okay, so now we assume the person will be writing in the user input his or her name, and we do this. Okay, and comma user. What is happening over here is welcome 0. So whatever goes over here and the curly braces 0 to our program, and after the comma you write user input. So whatever is the value here will go inside 0 and will be replaced over here. So let's try this. Okay. Now notice the console is running, but it is not doing anything. It is because in my program I'm expecting the user to write something, but I have not informed the user to do so. So let's close this, go back. First of all, replace this first step with another step, which is to inform the user to write something. How can you inform this? Print out something on the console by using this statement: console.writeLine. Please enter your name. You save the program again and start. Please enter your name. Okay, I'll write my name. Something happens, the program continues execution, and suddenly it finishes automatically. If I want this program to wait before finishing, what do I do? Can you guess? Can I write something over here? Yes. This is what I can write to read something from the user, which is to take some input. So this, it will do, this line, it will actually ask the user to, not ask the user, but wait for some user input, then finish. Why will it finish after the user input something? Because this main block ends over here, you see. It starts here from this curly braces and it ends over here in this curly braces. So there is nothing after reading the input that this program can do, so it exits. So now let's run this. Murad, welcome Murad to the program. And that's all. The program finishes. So now it is waiting for some input. I write some input like 000 and I hit enter. Program goes off. Okay. Or the other way is, as I told you, is to move this, save, and then use this option. Start without debugging. Please enter the name. Welcome Murad to our program. So the variable over here, which I recorded the user input, the username, MURAD, rad is replaced over here. If you see welcome 0 to our program, replace it with the user input. The user input was a string which the user entered before and is replaced over here. So this was a little bit about variables also, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you can actually write this program and test in your laptop, in your Visual Studio environment also. So yes, good luck. See you very soon.